one of the pertinent storylines in the Australian Open revolve around your former doubles partner, Coco Gauff, and showing emotions also after a tough loss for you. After losing tonight, how do you yourself deal with those emotions, especially in tough moments?
It's difficult. I think everyone has their own ways of coping, and for me personally, it's not always the same for each loss the way I cope. And I think a part of this journey is learning to be self-aware in terms of knowing what I need to do to kind of step back and regroup. Because in the end, in tennis, you lose a lot. And some losses are going to be more difficult than others. So it's something I guess you have to manage, and yeah, it's tough, and it's just different in every situation for me. I don't really have like a specific something that I do all the time. It's just very different each loss. Yeah.
Alexandra Eala just weighed in on the whole Coco Gauff racket smashing drama from the Australian Open, and her response is turning heads across the tennis world. The Filipina star, who used to be Goff's doubles partner, was asked straight up how she deals with tough losses compared to Coco's viral meltdown. Her answer speaks volumes about what it takes to compete at the elite level in tennis. Do you think players should be allowed to smash their rackets after rough losses, or should they face stricter penalties for showing that kind of emotion? Drop your thoughts down in the comments below.
Have no issue with the outburst, have no issue with the how, have only small issue with the when. The dilemma is this, like, if it was a man that did what Coco Gauff did, it's a non-story. If it was a man that did what Coco Gauff did, nobody's talking about it. I also think we have to be understanding of the fact of, like, there are so many stereotypes that are attributed to black women and being aggressive and black women and being angry, and I think this is a time where this is another one of those stereotypes trying to be attributed to Coco Gauff. Coco Gauff just lost a devastating match. I think she lost 6-1, lost 6-2, 2 sets. It was blouses. It was an embarrassing performance. Her own words, her own family's words, her own coach's words, and the analysts' words. She was upset. Athletes at the pinnacle of their performances, when they fall short, they are upset. I just think as though a lot of people are treating Coco Gauff like you wouldn't treat a man, and a lot of people are treating Coco Gauff like you wouldn't treat any other athlete if given the same level of devastation and same level of...
So Coco Gauff had a moment at the Australian Open that completely blew up across social media and the tennis world. After dropping her quarterfinal match to Elena Svitolina, cameras caught Goff in a tunnel at Melbourne Park absolutely annihilating her racket. And I mean really annihilating it. Smash after smash, destruction. The footage went viral instantly because it's always wild to see athletes, usually so composed, completely lose their cool like that.
He is usually so even-keeled. I feel like she's trying to walk away from the camera there.
Now, most of the time when something like this goes down, other players either stay completely quiet or give some generic, diplomatic answer about how everyone handles frustration differently. But Alexandra Eala actually gave a thoughtful, honest response when reporters asked her about it at a press conference following her own tournament in Manila. For context, Eala and Goff have history together. They were doubles partners at the 2025 Italian Open and have kept a friendship as Eala climbed up the WTA rankings herself. So this isn't just some random player commenting on drama, this is someone who actually knows Coco personally and gets what she's going through. The question came up because Eala had just gone through her own disappointing loss at the Philippine Women's Open, where she was the second seed and the crowd favorite. She beat Jimenez Sakatsum and Elena Sharva before falling to Camila Osorio in the quarterfinals. Playing at home with massive expectations and then coming up short brings its own kind of pressure. So when reporters asked Eala how she lets off steam after tough losses compared to Goff's racket smashing incident, her answer was genuinely interesting. She said, "It's difficult. I think everyone has their own ways of coping, and for me personally, it's not always the same for each loss." That right there is actually a really important point that often gets lost in these discussions. People want to put athletes in boxes. This person is emotional, that person is calm, this one handles pressure well, that one doesn't. But the reality is way more complicated than that. Eala continued, "The way I cope, and I think part of her journey is learning to be self-aware, knowing what she needs to step back and regroup. Because at the end of the day, tennis is a sport where you lose a lot, and some losses are going to hit harder than others." She's absolutely right about that. Tennis is unique among major sports in how often you face defeat. Even the greatest of all time lose constantly. Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal, Serena Williams, they've all lost hundreds of matches in their careers. The nature of the sport is brutal. You're out there alone, no teammates to share the blame, and when you lose completely. Eala went on to say, "So it's something I guess you have to manage, and yeah, it's tough, and it's just different in every situation for me. I don't have a set routine for it. It's just different with every loss." What's really interesting about Eala's answer is that she's basically defending Goff without ever saying it outright. She's giving context for why different losses demand different emotional reactions. Eala acknowledges there's no one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to handling disappointment at the elite level. And that's, honestly, a really mature, thoughtful way to handle what could have been a classic gotcha question. The reporter was clearly trying to get Eala to either condemn Goff's meltdown or defend it outright. Instead, Eala flipped the conversation and focused on the complexity of managing emotions in professional sports. Now, let's break down why Goff's racket smash went absolutely viral in the first place. Coco Gauff is one of the highest profile players in tennis right now. She won the French Open, has been ranked in the top 3, and is heavily marketed as one of the faces of women's tennis. So when she has a very public emotional moment, it's going to get amplified. But here's the thing, racket smashing isn't unusual in tennis. Players destroy gear all the time. Novak Djokovic has smashed rackets, Alexander Zverev has smashed rackets. Even athletes known for being calm and composed have had moments of destruction. The reason Goff's incident got so much attention is a mix of factors. First, she's extremely famous, so everything she does is magnified. Second, the footage was dramatic, not just a single hit, but multiple smashes until the racket was completely wrecked. Third, it happened after a Grand Slam quarterfinal with tons of cameras and media everywhere. What Eala implicitly points out is the emotional weight of a loss changes depending on the situation. Losing early in a small tournament feels totally different than dropping a quarterfinal at the Australian Open as a favorite. Expectations, pressure, mental and physical exhaustion, all of that adds up. Eala also highlighted self-awareness, which is huge for athletes at this level. She said, quote, "Part of the journey is learning to be self-aware in terms of knowing what I need to do to step back and regroup." End quote. Translation? Figuring out your own mental health and emotional management strategies. Some players need quiet time after a loss to decompress. Some need to talk it out with their coach or team. Some need to physically release frustration. Whether that's smashing a racket, hitting balls against a wall, or going hard in the gym, there's no universal right way to cope. The fact that Alexandra Eala is only 20 and already showing this level of emotional intelligence is genuinely impressive. A lot of athletes, even much older ones, never develop that kind of self-awareness about their own mental and emotional needs. What makes her perspective even more compelling is that she's been on her own high-pressure journey, rising through the tennis ranks while carrying the weight of being the most famous player in the Philippines. The Philippine Women's Open literally exists because of her popularity. Her presence created demand for professional tennis in Manila. So playing there as the second seed and home crowd favorite meant the expectations were immense. Every fan was watching, hoping for a win. And when she lost in the quarterfinals, she had to process not only personal disappointment, but also the pressure of feeling like she'd let an entire country down. That kind of experience gives her unique insight into why Coco Gauff might smash a racket after a tough loss. Having been through similar pressure herself, Eala isn't judging Goff harshly. She understands that human reactions to disappointment aren't always neat or controlled. This also ties into the broader conversation around athlete mental health, which has evolved significantly. There's much more recognition now that elite athletes aren't robots. They feel intense emotions, and sometimes those emotions show in ways that aren't perfectly composed or media-friendly. Goff has been open about the mental challenges of being a young star, the anxiety, the pressure of expectations, and the difficulty of maintaining perspective under constant scrutiny. Her racket smashing incident is part of that larger picture, a young athlete showing vulnerability while navigating a mentally exhausting career. Eala's response highlights another important aspect of tennis culture. Despite rivalry and competition, players often share mutual respect and empathy because they truly understand what each other is going through. Experiences fans, media, or even coaches might not fully grasp. By saying everyone has their own ways of coping and it's not always the same for each loss, Eala speaks from personal experience while subtly defending her friend. She's essentially saying, don't judge Coco too harshly. You don't know what that particular loss meant to her. It's also important to note that Alexandra Eala herself has faced highs and lows in her career: breakthrough victories, crushing defeats, injuries, ranking fluctuations, and the ongoing pressure of representing her country. When she talks about losses being more difficult than others, she speaks with full understanding of the mental and emotional weight involved. Timing-wise, this conversation is interesting because Eala is about to compete in the Abu Dhabi Open, while Goff is preparing for the Dubai Tennis Championships. Both are moving forward from their Australian Open disappointments and trying to build momentum for the season. Eala's response subtly emphasizes that in tennis, you don't get to dwell on losses for long. Resilience and perspective are key. The schedule in professional tennis is relentless. You lose a heartbreaking quarterfinal on Thursday, and by the following week, you're expected to be mentally reset and ready to compete at a completely different tournament. That constant emotional turnover is exhausting. Some people argue that athletes are paid well enough to just deal with it, but that's a shallow understanding of human psychology. Money doesn't make you immune to disappointment, frustration, or anger. In fact, the financial stakes often make losses even more stressful. Your ranking, sponsorships, and earnings all hinge on your results. What Alexandra Eala is modeling in her response is emotional maturity without judgment. She's not saying racket smashing is good or bad. She's not taking a side. Instead, she's acknowledging that elite athletes are human beings who feel intense emotions and must find ways to process them that work for them individually. Her emphasis on self-awareness and regrouping shows she understands that the goal isn't to feel frustration or anger, it's to feel it, process it, and move forward productively. Sometimes that processing even involves destroying a piece of equipment in private. As long as no one is hurt and the athlete can mentally reset for the next match, is it really that big of a deal? Critics often argue that racket smashing sets a bad example or is disrespectful to the sport. Eala's response suggests a more nuanced perspective. Managing emotions is a personal journey, and different players are at different points in that journey. Goff is still relatively young in her career, and despite her success, she's still learning to handle the massive pressure of being a top-level athlete. Adding context from the Philippines, Eala highlighted at her press conference that there are only 8 professional men's tournaments and just 2 for women. Having a WTA Tour event in Manila is monumental and puts enormous pressure on her personally because she's the reason the tournament exists. When your performance impacts whether a sport grows or stalls in your home country, the pressure is immense. Goff operates under similar pressure, but on a global scale. Ultimately, Alexandra Eala gave one of the most thoughtful, mature responses to the Coco Gauff racket smashing controversy. She defended her friend subtly while illustrating the emotional complexity of elite tennis. Her perspective, informed by personal experience, makes her insight particularly valuable. For more tennis content that goes beyond surface-level drama, hit the like button and subscribe for intelligent analysis.